Hey guys, it's Ted Bogert. Welcome back to the TED Show. I am really excited to have Christian de la Huerta. I don't even know if I did that right, but I hope I did, Christian, on the show with us. Today, we're going to talk about how you can release your power. Reclaim your power and release the hero in you, and of course, so much more. I'm excited. I love this topic. Welcome, Christian. How you doing today?
I'm doing great, Ted. Thank you. Thanks for having me on the show, and you did great with the name. Thank you.
Oh, good. See, I was trying. I'm not really good with the R's, but I'm working on it. All right. So the audience loves, and also I want to comment, you have great background. I love it when guests come on and it's all centered and it looks good. You've got a mic. I mean, it's perfect. So the audience always loves origin story. They want to know about you. So that they can you know how this works. They want to get to know you so that when you're going to talk about reclaiming and restoring, they go, oh my God, he's such a cool dude. So let's start there.
Well, I'll tell this part of it. I was born in Cuba. I lived there for first 10 years of my life. So I lived in totalitarian, dictatorship, in which power was very much hierarchical and power over, in which the government decided everything, right? And pretty much owned you. We came to the States when I was 10 years old, painfully shy. I was okay one-on-one as a teenager, but if you added a third human, like I clammed up. To the degree, like listen to this, because it's kind of a sad story. I was a good student in high school. I had a 4.0 except for one B my last year. And I didn't do this intentionally then, but looking back on it, I know that I sabotaged my GPA so that I wouldn't have to give the valedictorian speech. There is just no way that I would have been able to stand up in front of a group of hundreds of people in a filled auditorium and speak. There's just no way.
Where did so you were always shy? Did you grow up? A lot of shy kids grow up in households that are otherwise boisterous and loud. And so what was the shyness always that way?
As far as I can remember, and definitely introverted and large family, 9 kids.
Wow.
So there were definitely moments of loudness, but I think that also came because my parents were involved in the counter revolution. So they conspired against Castro. So there was this whole kind of implicit message of don't show up too much, right? Kind of hide behind the scenes. And I think even though it didn't tell us that, I think we kind of took that on.
Wow, fascinating. Yeah. I love that. I thank you, because I think a lot of people never stop to think why they are a certain way or in a situation. And so I love to hear the comment there.
Yeah,
how did it go when you got here?
Well, it's like I think in some ways I mastered being different. Like when we first came to the U.S., we lived in a small town in Georgia, Milledgeville, because it was one of the few places where Cuban psychiatrists could practice while they were getting licensed here. And I didn't speak a word of English, so it really stuck out. And then finally, after 3 years, when I spoke English, I had learned the language, and then we moved back to Miami, where I went to a predominantly Cuban American high school, in which I stuck out like a sore thumb again because I had a Southern accent.
Oh.
So but what's interesting about all this is that I was able to transmute all this sense of differentness. And my adolescence was one long depression because I just didn't fit in. And I was struggling with other, deeper parts of who I was. And these days, like no matter what happens in my life, whether a relationship works out or it doesn't, a project succeeds or it fails, like I never question. I no longer question my self-worth. Like that's unshakable. And I'm a public speaker. I speak all over the world. I'm a TEDx speaker, so that I know that these teachings that I write about work. Like we can reclaim our own personal power, no matter what happened in our pasts.
Well, that's so as a painfully shy person, you being able to transform and become a public speaker and travel. I mean, and you're just a creative, but did you have to switch on the other side of the brain, or was this a learned process that you went through?
Well, in terms of the public speaking, I managed to get through college without having to give a speech. Like,
Wow.
and I could raise my hand from the classroom and speak, but I just couldn't be in front of a group, right? So I managed, but then I always had a sense of mission. Like I knew that I was here to make a difference and to help people, and to serve humanity and to make a difference in this world. And so I knew that I had to do something about it. And so I actually signed up for a public speaking course, which I hated, detested it, because
I bet you did.
for 14 weeks, Ted, I had to get up three times in a night on Thursday nights and give 3 2-minute speeches. Come Monday, I was already losing sleep. Like what am I going to talk about, and like just getting nervous about it. But what happened? After like 7-8 weeks of doing that, it stopped being such a big deal. So for people who have allowed themselves to be held back by fear in whatever form, that's how we break out of fear, right? It takes little steps, tiny steps. Because imagine this is our comfort zone. This is where we're comfortable now, being with ourselves, being in the world, relating to others. Every time we take that little step, 3 2-minute speech, going on that coffee date, going on that job interview, after a year of taking a little step and another one, now we're established way out here.
True.
And we're confused about what fearlessness means. We tend to think that fearlessness means we no longer feel fear. And that's not the case. Like what it does mean is that we no longer give our power away to our fear. So we feel fear and we go ahead and we do it anyway.
I think that limiting beliefs are what kill a lot of dreams and potential. People miss out on their potential, their gifts to share, to do whatever they really want in their life because of limiting beliefs like I can't do that or I can't do that, like you were talking about. It's interesting to me that the way that you described the fear. So talk about fear, because we got a couple questions on that. So when you're talking about fear, give us more definition on what fears you have seen, obviously in your travels and your studies and your discussions with people. What fears other than shyness have you seen that are limiting?
Oh my God. I mean, you're so right about the mindset and how we allow ourselves to be held back by our thoughts and our beliefs and our fears. Okay. I've been working now with people for over 30 years, and helping them have the relationships that they dream about, the kind of lives that have a sense of meaning and purpose, a sense of personal empowerment. And what keeps us from all those things that we long for is fear, right? And there's so many fears, but there's some basic ones, right? Fear of rejection, fear of conflict. That's one of the reasons that we give our power away. Right, because we've been so conditioned to be afraid of conflict, and we think that power is a bad thing because we've been conditioned to think that power corrupts, and we're afraid that we're going to be corrupted or that we're going to abuse power. But what they forgot to tell us about that is that phrase "power corrupts" and "absolute power corrupts absolutely" was taken out of context. It was originally speaking about political power. Specifically, not about the interpersonal power that we're talking about. So when you put all those things together, the fact that we are constantly witnessing abuses of power, and what good-hearted person wants to abuse power? What good-hearted person wants to be corrupted? So combine that with the fear about the emotions and conflict, we stuff ourselves. We stuff our truth. We don't say what we really desire. We don't like outline and delineate our boundaries and what works for us and what doesn't work for us. How many times have we ended up saying yes when inside it was like a hell no?
Right. I mean, I think it's interesting too how some people will begin to get outside the comfort zone, and then the first opportunity to kind of grow. Sorry, there's obviously something going on downtown. Their opportunity to grow, they have imposter syndrome, and they feel that that's a different kind of manifestation of the fear. But I love the fact that you overcame all that. It's one thing, I think, Christian, to be someone who wants to overcome minor things, like take little teeny baby steps. You went from not wanting 3 people in the room to speaking in front of thousands. I mean, And I think the message for everyone that I'm getting is that you baby steps do work. Don't get discouraged. One step at a time is fine, but you can reach goals bigger. We used to call them goal reaches or reachable goals. And so you can do it if you actually continue step by step.
Yeah, exactly. And what you're pointing to also is that to no longer be willing to sell out on our dreams. Right? It's like the brain is like a computer. So whatever we put into it is what comes out of it. So there is a way that we can step into our power that does not have to be hierarchical, that doesn't have to be abusive, that doesn't have to depend on fear, force, domination, manipulation, so that there is a way that we can express our own personal power in a way that is a match for us, that is congruent with the goodness of our hearts. And so that we no longer have to sell out. We no longer have to play small. We no longer have to give our power away for that illusion of security, or for that false sense of acceptance, or for those morsels of pseudo love that we give our power away for.
So what do you think somebody who's listening, and of people are saying things like Ellen just said, overcoming fear is the first step. It just takes a lot of steps to get there. So what's something that in your basic, some basics you can give to them? Like what's one way to take that power back? What's a good baby step for them to look at or to try to figure out so they can take that first step?
Yeah, and that's a great question. And I outline many in the book. I think one of the primary steps is to understand that there are different kinds of power. Right? So just like we've been talking about. And so, for example, what I call worldly power, we tend to associate with people who have money, people who are famous, people who are part of some hierarchy, whether it's a corporate ladder or some kind of religious organization. But all those things are outside of us. They're external. And because of that, they're here today, they're gone tomorrow. Whereas there's another kind of power, the kind, what I call spiritual power, soulful power, that is inside each and every one of us. No one can give it to us, and no one can take it away. We are the only ones who can give it away, for all the wrong reasons that we give it away. So once we begin to understand, that there is that power that is intrinsic to who we are, and then we learn how to express it. So, for example, think about, when worldly power is very arrogant. It always has an agenda. It's kind of blowing itself up to seem bigger than it actually is. Whereas the soulful power is humble. It doesn't need to prove anything to anybody. Like it's there, but it's really, really powerful. So think of Gandhi or Gandalf, from the Lord of the Rings, in their simple monastic robes, their sandal feet, and you wouldn't know the power they hold until it's necessary.
Correct.
And then watch out. Like Gandhi brought the British Empire to its knees when it was at its highest point in terms of global reach, without ever shooting a gun or landing a punch. That's power.
I love that kind of power, because for me, I think I know everybody's got their opinion, but for me, that kind of power, really, you plant seeds everywhere. You are changing lives and changing the world as you're changing yourself. I mean, it's just such a wonderful, positive thing. So, all right, people are asking, and it's about that time. What is the best way for us to read whatever you've done, watch you, find you, get in touch with you, and learn more about what you do?
Well, get this book, for one thing. Awakening the Soul of Power. It's on Amazon. It's at your local bookstore, wherever books are sold. And to get to get in touch with me, best way is my website, soulfulpower.com. And
we've got that scrolling across the bottom, guys. Reach out to him. He is so awesome. Christian, thank you so much for being on the show. I love it. I'd love you to come back and take some more deeper dives into some things that are in the book. But I loved it. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much, Ted, for having me. Thank you for all you do. That makes such a difference in so many lives. And I'd love to come back. Just let me know when.
Anytime. So sweet. Thank you. All right, guys. Reach out to Christian at soulfulpower.com. And that's the website that's scrolling across the bottom. We'll